kepada anda berkenaan Malaysia dan Amerika Syarikat menaik taraf hubungan dua hala kepada perkongsian strategik komprehensif, iaitu telah diadakan pertemuan dua muka turut disertai oleh menteri-menteri berkaitan pada hari ini, iaitu pertemuan sulung semasa lawatan rasmi Presiden Amerika Syarikat bersempena dengan sidang kemuncak ASEAN Amerika Syarikat ke-13 dan sidang kemuncak Asia Timur ke-20 sebagai satu detik bersejarah dan mengiktiraf kerjasama strategik dalam pelbagai bidang yang semakin berkembang antara Malaysia dan Amerika Syarikat. Dan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri dan juga Tuan Yang Terutama Donald Trump telah mengumumkan penaitarafan hubungan dua hala kepada perkongsian strategik komprehensif. Dan untuk makluman anda, ia merupakan satu kemajuan bersejarah dalam hubungan antara kedua-dua negara yang berteraskan hubungan diplomatik yang telah terjalin sejak tahun 1957 dan dikukuhkan lagi melalui rangka perkongsian komprehensif yang telah dimeterai pada tahun 2014.
That's exactly right. And of course, in line with the significant highlight that Munawar has just shared is also the 13th ASEAN-US Summit that we have also shared further as well, in which we have witnessed the presence of US President Donald J. Trump in Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre.
Okey, kita dah imbas kembali apa antara perkara bersejarah yang berlaku pada hari ini. Kita kongsikan juga kepada anda, kita ke ruang informasi di sebelah sini untuk kita berikan apa yang tular dan apa yang menjadi tumpuan khususnya berkenaan dengan ruang diplomasi yang telah pun disediakan oleh Malaysia selaku pengurusi ASEAN pada hari ini. Yang pertamanya adalah apa antara aspirasi utama yang telah disampaikan oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri kepada Presiden Amerika Syarikat, iaitu Malaysia menyeru Presiden Trump untuk terus menyokong usaha keamanan termasuk di Gaza. Perdana Menteri Dato' Seri Anwar Ibrahim menegaskan bahawa komitmen itu perlu konsisten dan diperteguh, turut menzahirkan penghargaan terhadap usaha Presiden Trump dalam menggerakkan pelan damai antaranya di wilayah Gaza.
And of course, the next tab, as we see one of the highlights. Now we're bringing to you a little bit of glimpse from social media's perspective as well, instead of giving you all the factual opportunities. Now in this, the ASEAN Today presented the ASEAN Prize 2025 to the Union of Youth Federations of Cambodia in recognition of its contributions in strengthening youth engagement and advancing regional integration. Now, this is a prestigious award presented by Prime Minister Dato' Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim as the ASEAN Chairman to UYFC Vice President Dem Darini at the opening ceremony of the 47 ASEAN this morning.
Okey, tahniah kita ucapkan kepada UYFC atas penganugerahan ini. Dan seterusnya, inilah dia yang kita berikan perhatian juga, turut tular di media sosial sebenarnya pada hari ini, iaitu Badan Induk Bola Sepak Dunia, Persatuan Bola Sepak Antarabangsa FIFA dan ASEAN hari ini memeterai pelanjutan Memorandum Persefahaman MOU mengenai pembangunan bola sepak serantau di luar sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 di Pusat Konvensyen Kuala Lumpur, dan MOU itu ditandatangani Presiden FIFA dan juga Setiausaha Agong ASEAN. Dan satu lagi.
Let's see the next news update as well. I think this is the most, I would say, viral clip at the moment throughout social media, and videos of the Timor-Leste members as well. As we can see the videos that we have. I believe a lot of members of media from Timor-Leste have expressed tears of joy flowing as Timor-Leste officially acceded as the ASEAN's 11th member during the opening ceremony of today's 47 ASEAN Summit. Now, this is indeed a 14-year aspiration that we have been waiting about, and truly a remarkable and historic milestone for the people of Timor-Leste.
Jadi tahniah kita ucapkan kepada rakyat Timor-Leste kerana menjadi sebahagian daripada keluarga ASEAN yang cukup besar, dan juga pastinya kita berikan gambaran kepada anda. Hari ini kita mengimbas kembali apa agenda utama yang telah pun berlaku. Baru hari pertama, Irene, untuk sidang rasmi bagi sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 masih berbaki esok dan juga lusa, khususnya pada 28 hari bulan nanti untuk kita menantikan atau cara kemuncaknya, iaitu di mana Malaysia akan menyerah menyerahkan kepimpinan pengurusi ASEAN ini kepada negara Filipina. Jadi untuk ruang ketika ini, sebelum kita nak berehat dan juga bersama dengan tetamu seketika nanti, kita akan saksikan satu pakej yang kami sediakan untuk anda untuk kita memahami berkenaan deklarasi Kuala Lumpur ASEAN 2045, masa depan yang dikongsi bersama yang telah pun dilakar pada Mei yang lalu.
Let's roll the clip.
Dokumen ini menzahirkan aspirasi ASEAN untuk merealisasikan komuniti ASEAN yang berdaya tahan, inovatif dan dinamik dan berpaksikan rakyat menjelang tahun 2045. Secara dasarnya, visi ini berfungsi sebagai kerangka hala tuju ASEAN untuk terus memperkukuh agenda pembinaan komuniti serantau dalam memasuki fasa integrasi di masa hadapan. Ia mengandungi pendekatan strategik yang menyeluruh yang akan membimbing ASEAN dalam menangani impak trend mega sedia ada dan akan datang serta peluang-peluang yang ada di samping mengekalkan kepusatan ASEAN. ASEAN 2045 Masa Depan Bersama merangkumi 6 dokumen iaitu Deklarasi Kuala Lumpur mengenai ASEAN 2045 Masa Depan Bersama, Visi Komuniti ASEAN 2045, ASEAN yang berdaya tahan, inovatif dan dinamik dan berpaksikan rakyat, Pelan Strategik Komuniti Politik Keselamatan ASEAN APSC, Pelan Strategik Komuniti Ekonomi ASEAN AEC 2026-2030, Pelan Strategik Komuniti Sosio-Budaya ASEAN ASCC dan Pelan Strategik Ketersambungan ASEAN.
Okey, tadi kita dah saksikan kepada anda semua berkenaan dengan Deklarasi Kuala Lumpur ASEAN 2045. Itu hala tuju bersama yang telah pun disepakati oleh pemimpin-pemimpin negara anggota ASEAN pastinya untuk kita membina masa depan ASEAN yang lebih indah, pasti berpaksikan rakyat, berdaya tahan dan juga berdaya saing.
Yes, and in line with this year's ASEAN Chairmanship 2025, Malaysia's theme Inclusivity and Sustainability, there have been many events that we have witnessed, and we are so proud to have witnessed Malaysia's hosting the 47 ASEAN Summit. In line with that, many inclusivity events and sustainable events and approaches that we have also addressed many pressing issues and conflicts. Then further discussions will be held as well with this. Now, of course, like I mentioned, the event this evening, Munawar, is going to be something very lightweight. We're going to have a bit of fun with our guests here in the studio, along with our viewers at home. Perhaps some questions that many of you have been asking in terms of the 47th ASEAN Summit. And perhaps our guest here today, we have Professor Dr. Mark Lim Weng. He is the Dean from Sunway Business School, Sunway University. And joining us online as well, we have Dr. Zokri Idris, Managing Director, Global Asia Consulting, Sendirian Berhad. Now, unfortunately, Dr. Zokri couldn't be here with us. He's enjoying his time in Abu Dhabi, I believe.
Dr. Zokri, apa khabar?
Khabar baik, Alhamdulillah. Terima kasih.
Okey, Dr. Zokri, kalau anda bersama kami sejak daripada grandstand di awal pagi tadi, Dr. Zokri antara tetamu kita ataupun panel kita yang sentiasa memberi input dan juga pandangan berkenaan dengan sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 ini. Prof, sebelum kita berbicara dengan lebih lanjut, pastinya hari ini apa antara agenda utama yang menjadi perhatian utama yang paling dekat dengan Prof sendiri?
Ya, so of course yang pertama adalah adalah kemasukan Timor Leste ke dalam member state ASEAN. I think that is a big accomplishment in this ASEAN summit. And as we all know, there are 2 ASEAN summits at every year in which ASEAN Summit is held. The first one always held in the early of the year that looks after the housekeeping stuff between the ASEAN member states. And the second part is, the second ASEAN Summit in each year focuses on its relationship with the big trade partners, the big ticket partners, right? And as what we see today is that we saw the entry of Timor Leste. I think that is a big one because they have been wanting to come in since 2011. And of course, today we see the historical peace deal being struck between Cambodia and Thailand, through the platform of ASEAN as the third country in which Malaysia is the chair, and in conjunction with President Trump's visit here to Malaysia. So I think these are the big ticket items that stands out for me. And of course, towards the end of this evening, we witnessed the trade comprehensive strategic partnership deal between Malaysia and the United States. And although the tariff has remained at 19%, I think the big win for the businesses is that, especially for semiconductors and electronics, they are now able to go into the American market without this tariff being imposed on them. Whereas for the consumers, we are now able to buy our Apple oranges that we usually import from the US, without the SSD. So I think that's good news for businesses and consumers alike.
It's interesting that you mentioned some of the facts and I believe the topics of discussion, mode of discussion that we will also dive in deeper later on for our discussion today. And I do want to ask Dr. Zokri, you have been with us since the morning of today's official 47 ASEAN Summit, day 1 today as we come to a close. We had a lot of exchange in opinions and thoughts, and we've heard a lot from you, from your expertise in terms of the presence of United States of America President Donald J. Trump, as well as other events surrounding the importance of the 47 ASEAN Summit. Now, as we are coming close, we draw close to the end of day 1. What are your thoughts on this, and how would you, I would say, perceive in terms of what has been settled and discussed over the past few hours?
Thank you, Aaron. I just have 2 responses to this question. My first response is that we can see the journey from January this year all the way until today is actually a manifestation of the ASEAN theme this year, which includes inclusivity and sustainability. So the series of summits, meetings, bilaterals, as well as multilateral is our effort as Malaysian chairmanship to champion the theme of ASEAN this year, which is inclusivity and sustainability. So I think we've quite achieved on that on the first basis. Now, on the second basis, to expand on the sustainability and inclusivity, we shall not just remind ourselves on what's happening today or the next 48 or 72 hours. In fact, there are already many summits and meetings being held since January all the way until today. Well, one of them, I think we've seen the video montage on how the launch of ASEAN 2045, the shared future together. Now, this is actually an internal document of ASEAN, how we actually envisioned ourselves in the next 20 or 15 years. And this is something remarkable, something that is not mentioned, but I think is something that was to be celebrated. And we also should forget, I think in early July and August, we've got this ASEAN-China Summit, ASEAN GCC China Summit. So we've got 10 countries of ASEAN banned without Timor-Leste, and Timor-Leste is just an observer. We have the GCC countries, that includes the country that I'm currently residing, the United Arab Emirates, as well as China. So I think this trio combination is actually one of the added value that we can see in the future of ASEAN. So I think, what we have done so far is remarkably excellent in fulfilling the theme of this year, which are inclusivity as well as sustainability.
Okey, Doktor, sebelum kita memperincikan lebih lanjut lagi berkenaan dengan perjanjian perdagangan yang akan dikemaskini, ada setengah yang telah pun dikemaskini. Sekarang ini saya ingin memberikan ataupun mengalihkan perhatian kepada sosok tubuh kepimpinan yang pastinya cukup kita sayangi dan kita hargai, iaitu Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim. Dan pada sebelah petang tadi kita melihat Presiden Amerika Syarikat Donald Trump menzahirkan penghargaan kepada Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim atas kejayaan beliau menjadi perantara kepada pemeteraian perjanjian damai antara Kemboja dan juga Thailand. Jadi pada ruang ketika ini kita singkapkan untuk kita berikan penghargaan, untuk kita gambarkan nilai kepimpinan yang ada kepada Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim dan juga bagaimana nilai ketokohannya itu membawa kepada keamanan di peringkat serantau ini, Doktor.
Saya merasakan kepimpinan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri disokong dengan dasar luar negara Malaysia yang progresif, yang mencerminkan soft power ataupun kuasa yang secara non-traditional power ini sebenarnya lah yang mengikatkan negara-negara di ASEAN. Saya bagi contoh, kita menyambut pemimpin-pemimpin besar dunia bukan dengan perarakan ketenteraan, mempamerkan ketenteraan, tetapi kita mempamerkan kebudayaan dan juga identiti dan jati diri. What does it mean to be an Asian ataupun a Southeast Asian people? Dan saya rasa di sinilah keunikan, bukan sahaja keunikan Malaysia tetapi keunikan gabungan negara-negara dalam ASEAN yang budaya, identiti dan jati dirinya tinggi, disokong pula dengan pemimpin-pemimpin Malaysia dan juga ASEAN yang berwawasan, yang menjadikan it is actually satu ramuan yang digabung jalinkan untuk kita menyelesaikan masalah yang sedia ada pada ketika ini. Banyak konflik berada di luar negara dan juga di luar rantau ASEAN, tetapi apa yang kita boleh banggakan, kita dapat meminimalkan impak dan damages to the country dan kita curkan penyelesaian. So saya rasa ia adalah gabungan banyak faktor dan juga ramuan-ramuan yang lain di samping sosok kepimpinan negara kita dan juga kepimpinan rantau Asia Tenggara itu sendiri.
Very interesting, Dr. Zulkifli, that you mentioned about it. And since we're also in the topic of the signing of the ceasefire agreement between Thailand and Cambodia, I do want to shift our gears back to our guest in the studio here, Prof. Mark. So we have witnessed and we are well aware of the border conflict between Thailand and Cambodia in July 2025, caused at least dozens of deaths and displaced hundreds and thousands and threatened regional stability. Now, given that ASEAN emphasizes a lot of peace and stability, and in terms of supporting a nuclear-free war zone, as we have also seen, and we are very grateful for the fact that Thailand and Cambodia have come to a peace treaty. But our main goal is to ensure all ASEAN member states, in fact, global members, to avoid such occurrences to rehappen again. So in that sense, how should the bloc use this incident as a catalyst to strengthen its preventive diplomacy mechanisms and early warning architecture across the region?
Yes, I think, of course, Prime Minister Anwar is one of the best orchestrators around. He speaks well, he commands the respect of the international audience. And if you were to look at what he has done, I think he has also seized the moment. I think he's at the right place. He's at the right place at the right time, where the conflict between Cambodia and Thailand happened. Malaysia happens to be a chair, but it's very easy to say that he was there at the right place at the right time. It also takes a person's diplomacy skills to be able to bring two nations who are at conflict to lay their weapons down in such a fast manner. And I think, it does help with the call from President Trump because, the America, under his presidency within the last 8 months, is very committed towards peace. Right? Of course, when we look at media, we look at the news, he may be portrayed as taking sides of one another, but I think it's always good to be in the conversation at the table, to be able to influence the discourse of where decisions will be made. And as we can see, the decision is peace.
Ya, itu aspirasi bersama kan, Irene?
And having our Prime Minister of Malaysia, right, to be at the centre of such global discussions, having to resolve conflicts and to aid as an ASEAN centrality is really remarkable to see. A proud Malaysian we are, Munawar, to be
sangat berbangga
this.
Menjadi rakyat Malaysia. Bukan saja kita melihat kepada penganjuran sidang Kemuncak ASEAN yang sangat bersejarah, sangat besar, sangat bermakna ini, tapi pun juga kita berikan gambaran kepada anda betapa bangganya kita mempunyai pemimpin seperti Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim yang bukan saja menegaskan berkenaan keamanan di rantau ini, namun juga menegaskan berkenaan keamanan di Gaza misalnya, dan juga kestabilan di peringkat global dan keadilan dan juga kemakmuran bersama. Itu antara perkara yang sering kali ditegaskan oleh Yang Berhormat Perdana Menteri. Dan susulan daripada perjanjian perdamaian di antara Thailand dan juga Kemboja ini, kita melihat apa yang telah disampaikan oleh Perdana Menteri Thailand pada petang tadi, iaitu Thailand akan membebaskan 18 anggota tentera Kemboja yang ditahan sebagai sebahagian daripada perjanjian damai yang dimeterai antara kedua-dua pihak. Okey, kita melihat kepada perjanjian damai di antara Thailand dan juga Kemboja telah pun selesai. Alhamdulillah, satu pencapaian yang sangat membanggakan. Tapi ada satu lagi cabaran yang masih lagi wujud. Cabaran yang berpanjangan yang menjadi satu isu yang sering kali disuarakan, ditekankan oleh negara-negara mengharmonikan situasi atau konflik di Myanmar. Prof.
Yeah, so I think the agenda of peace in Myanmar will definitely be the topic in the next few days. You look at various news outlets. Some you have Myanmar in the picture, some you don't have Myanmar in the picture. But as we all see in the official photos today, that we have a representative from Myanmar, which means that ASEAN member states want to be in the conversation with Myanmar to say that you have upcoming elections, make sure that it's being done right. You have a whole range of people there, and what's important is to find a solution which is inclusive rather than divisive. So because of that, I think the spirit of inclusivity, which is the theme of this ASEAN summit, will continue. Today is just the first day. We still have 2 more days to go, and I'm quite sure that the talks will happen to bring the kind of inclusive spirit and peace to Myanmar. So fingers crossed, and I'm quite sure that this will end well.
Truly, and we are hoping for a similar outcome as how we had witnessed for Thailand and Cambodia today for Myanmar as well. Now, this, of course, comes back to a bigger scope and umbrella of the security, trade and external great power engagement within the ASEAN members. And these are actually all prominent in the summit's agenda. So, Dr. Zokri, in the context, right, how can ASEAN maintain its centrality and cohesion as a regional bloc when each member state faces differing external pressures and bilateral relationships?
Well, I think differences and divisions among states inevitable in every regional organizations, regardless of time, because every country has their own interests. And I think the 11 countries in ASEAN are not an exceptions to that. But ASEAN has its own model in mitigating these differences as well as this division. I think the 2045 shared future is something that we can look at, because the countries of ASEAN have agreed that this is the future that we are going to, and we're going to witness in 2045. But what next to be done is actually the implementations and the action plans that makes things better. So I think we are quite mature as a regional organizations to mitigate conflicts. We cannot say conflicts will not happen, but I think we have a model and we do have the know-how on how to minimize and to neutralize certain conflicts in our region. Yes, Myanmar remains as a challenge for our region with the refugee issues, with some of the ethnic cleansing issues to begin with, but I think the ongoing negotiations and discussions will definitely have a fruit. It's just that one thing I want to highlight. When we talk about ASEAN centrality is solely a work of ASEAN member countries. We shall not actually having expectations outsiders of ASEAN to be within the conflict of ASEAN. Let ASEAN settle its own turf and its own territory, borders and issues by not allowing external powers or external influence into the region, because history has shown that sometimes the influence and the interference of external powers will further deteriorate and worsen the peace process. So yeah, ASEAN centrality is the key.
Okey, centrality ASEAN itu menjadi keutamaannya, dan bagaimana kita melihat melalui kepimpinan Malaysia di bawah pengurusi ASEAN ini, Malaysia membawa aspirasi bersifat neutral dan juga pragmatik, di mana kita tidak menyebelahi mana-mana pihak dan kita sedia berkawan kepada siapa sahaja. Kita memilih untuk berdamai berbanding kita memilih untuk melakukan sebarang kekerasan ataupun sebarang negosiasi yang negatif. Pastinya kita melihat kepada konteks ini sangat penting untuk kita imbangkan juga dengan prinsip inklusiviti ataupun keterangkuman dan juga kemampanan ini yang menjadi tema kepada Kepengurusian ASEAN Malaysia pada kali ini. Inklusiviti itu adalah satu perkara yang sangat bijak untuk dilaksanakan sebagai satu tema, tapi apa yang ingin kita gambarkan adalah bagaimana untuk kita tidak meninggalkan mana-mana pihak. Sebagai contoh, kalau kita lihat dalam kalangan negara-negara anggota ASEAN ini agak tidak setara. Ada negara maju, ada negara pendapatan sederhana, ada negara yang masih lagi memerlukan bantuan dalam kalangan negara-negara anggota ini. Misalnya kita ambil konteks dalam negara Timor Leste. Apa antara nilai bantuan yang boleh kita lakukan sebagai negara anggota ASEAN untuk kita membantu Timor Leste misalnya untuk mereka bangkit sebagai sebuah negara dan juga memberikan sumbangan yang lebih bermakna untuk ASEAN?
Yeah, I think if you look at the comments coming from the Prime Minister of Timor-Leste today, I think he was, of course, he has very nice expression with the media and so on. But I thought that his comment was actually very, very humble today after his entry. The entry of Timor-Leste into ASEAN. I thought the comment was very humble. He was mentioning that Timor-Leste is here to learn from our siblings in ASEAN. I think that was really, really very good. But on that note, I think, as what you rightly pointed out, Munawar, that there are different levels of development among different countries in ASEAN. So what could be done, right? I think the government of Malaysia, through the Academy of Sciences Malaysia, and also our researchers at Sunway University, have actually come up with a study called the ASEAN Foresight. And within the ASEAN Foresight, we have different enablers, we have different key success factors that would drive the progress of different ASEAN countries depending on the strength of each of those countries, right? You look at Malaysia, in the region of Sarawak, is leading at the forefront of renewable energy, and that ties into the ASEAN power grid. But nevertheless, we have, for example, like Singapore, who is very good at services, or even in Vietnam, where the digital banking, digital financial services are evolving very rapidly. So what we can see here is that different ASEAN countries have different strengths, and with those strengths, they are able to lead ASEAN with other trading partners around the world, as well as within ASEAN themselves, to support each other in developing each other's economy, where a strength can actually support where is a potential for further development.
Well said, Prof. Mark, because the signing of the declaration on the admission of Timor-Leste is actually one that have been awaiting from very, very long, from 2011 when they first applied for the ASEAN membership, and they were only granted the ASEAN observer status in 2022, leading up to 2025, where they have officially been admitted as the 11th ASEAN member. We're truly proud to bring to you a little history of a package, how Timor-Leste first came about into ASEAN.
Jom saksikan.
Tahun 2025 menjadi detik bersejarah buat rantau Asia Tenggara. Selepas lebih 2 dekad perjuangan diplomatik dan pembangunan institusi, Timor Leste kini bersedia menyertai ASEAN sebagai anggota penuh ke-11. Perjalanan Timor Leste ke dalam keluarga ASEAN bukanlah sesuatu yang mudah. Ia bermula pada tahun 2022 apabila negara itu secara rasmi diterima sebagai pemerhati ASEAN. Sejak itu, Timor Leste aktif menyertai pelbagai mesyuarat dan inisiatif serantau untuk memahami dasar struktur serta budaya kerja ASEAN. Setahun kemudian, pada 2023, negara tersebut melangkah ke fasa baharu melalui pelaksanaan Pelan Kesiapsiagaan ASEAN. Melalui pelan ini, Timor Leste memperkukuh tadbir urus, membangunkan infrastruktur dan meningkatkan keupayaan institusi kerajaan sebagai persediaan untuk menyertai komuniti serantau secara penuh. Pada sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 di Kuala Lumpur, Timor Leste disahkan sebagai anggota penuh ASEAN. Penyertaan ini bukan sekadar memperluas keanggotaan blok ASEAN, tetapi turut memperkukuh jangkauan geopolitik, ekonomi dan diplomasi rantau ini di pentas global. Langkah ini juga mencerminkan semangat keterangkuman dan kemampanan yang menjadi tema kepengerusian ASEAN Malaysia 2025, bahawa kemajuan serantau hanya bermakna apabila setiap negara, besar atau kecil, diberi ruang untuk berkembang bersama.
Okey, pakej itu tadi menggambarkan perjalanan panjang Timor Leste untuk menyertai negara anggota ASEAN. Alhamdulillah hari ini berjaya direalisasikan. Erina tahu tak, saya dah banyak mengembara ke negara-negara ASEAN. Tapi Timor Leste saya belum sampai lagi, Erin.
I think it's the same with me as well, Munawar. Erin pun belum jejak kaki lagi di Timor Leste. And also, I think I've not been well-travelled such as yourself. You have been to all the ASEAN countries, I believe. And I have actually not taken the opportunity to. So I think that is my next step here.
Mungkin selepas ini kita boleh mengembara ke Timor Leste, sebab kalau kita lihat Perdana Menteri telah pun mengadakan lawatan rasmi ke Timor Leste baru-baru ini, dan dalam masa yang sama juga rakan-rakan media kita memberikan gambaran betapa indahnya sebenarnya kebudayaan dan juga tarikan pelancongan yang ada di negara Timor Leste.
Truly, this is an opportunity because when it comes to ASEAN, right, Mudawa, we get to witness many different cultures and perspectives of various ASEAN member states, and including their dialogue partners as well. I think this is something very interesting. Having said that, I also do want to ask Prof. Mark, have you actually been to Timor-Leste in the recent years, or your experience that you have seen on screen? No, probably not. No. I think we should all make a trip to Timor-Leste.
Yes,
it's not time.
Selepas habis sidang kemuncak ASEAN ni, nanti kita merancanakan perancangan kita untuk melancong ke Timor-Leste. Okey, bercakap berkenaan apa yang telah berlaku pada hari ini, kita dah menyentuh berkenaan Timor-Leste menjadi negara anggota ke-11 ASEAN, dan pastinya juga kita ingin menyentuh beberapa aspek yang lainnya. Antara yang menjadi tumpuan kita juga adalah bagaimana untuk kita memberikan gambaran pada ketika ini berkenaan dengan situasi apa yang telah berlaku, antaranya perbincangan di antara Perdana Menteri dan juga Presiden Amerika Syarikat Donald Trump berkenaan hubungan bilateral yang wujud di antara Amerika Syarikat dan juga Malaysia. Dan kalau kita imbas kembali, kalau kita lihat perjanjian kerjasama ekonomi bilateral di antara Malaysia dan juga Amerika Syarikat ini telah lama utuh. Namun persoalannya free trade agreements bersama Amerika masih belum ada lagi. Berbanding dengan free trade agreement ataupun FTA yang lain bersama dengan negara-negara ataupun rakan-rakan dialog utama. Jadi bagaimana ini menjadi satu titik pemula untuk kita melihat hubungan diplomatik yang lebih utuh dan juga untuk kita melangkau segala manfaat bersama yang boleh kita nikmati di antara kedua-dua negara, Prof.
Yeah, so if you look at the comprehensive strategic partnership that was struck today, the terms there looks like a free trade agreement to me. right? You know, you have some industries where Malaysia can export to the America without the tariffs being imposed. You know, America is able to come into the Malaysian market, you know, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, you know, that's one. Of course, in Malaysia, we are a Muslim country, so we have the halal certification that is there. One of the promises that will be made is that Malaysia will help the American manufacturers or the American producers to be able to meet these requirements. And I think our JAKIM here is very, very supportive, very, very helpful. Although they uphold the standards, but they also provide a lot of support for our friends who wants to actually export their products into Malaysia. So from that perspective, I think there's a lot of benefits on both ends. And for us in Malaysia, I think it's good news for us, especially in our biggest industry of semiconductors and electronics. You know, previously we were very, very concerned with the tariffs that's being imposed, because with a tariff, it means that products from Malaysia becomes more expensive. And because that these will now be exempted as part of the comprehensive strategic partnership that we have, I think that is the first stepping point for us to discuss more. And it's always good when you actually have a good starting point. And that's what we have seen today.
Truly, of course, the comprehensive strategic partnership following the bilateral meeting between the Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim and President of United States of America Donald J. Trump in Kuala Lumpur certainly marks a historic milestone in Malaysia and US relations, which actually dates back to 1957, and we were previously upgraded to a comprehensive partnership in 2014. And of course, as the United States of America remains one of Malaysia's largest trading partners, with the total trade reaching 324.91 billion ringgit in 2024, and thus the new comprehensive strategic partnership underscores deeper cooperation in key areas such as trade and investment, advanced technology, defense, energy security, and regional stability. Now, the partnership also reinforces Malaysia's growing role as a trusted and strategic player in the Asia-Pacific region. Now, of course, as I've also mentioned, that US remains one of Malaysia's largest trading partner in both emphasizing advanced technology and investment. Dr. Zokri, how can Malaysia leverage this partnership further to attract more high-value investments, particularly in sectors like semiconductors, digital economy, and green technology?
Well, I think, again, I do agree with my colleague on studio saying that it is actually a starting point for the greater achievements of our trade relations with the United States. And on top of that, we are currently becoming an observer of BRICS, which also enlarged and also expand and widened the market reach of Malaysian products. So having a multiple duplications of various free trade agreements will definitely be an added value to Malaysia in the long term. Again, the challenges that we face as a nation is that whether we have the capacity and the bandwidth to fulfill the demands of our markets out there. Again, this is a separate discussion altogether, but again, we already have an opportunity to enter into various markets at different levels and different territories. What needs to be done and what needs to be seen is actually our readiness, our bandwidth and capacity to fulfill the demands of this market. So that is a really good thing and a really good challenge for a country like Malaysia.
Truly, I think in this sense, we're also looking at Malaysia's strength as well in deepening ties further with the United States of America. Now, in the, there are a lot of collaborations and I would say cooperative measures that will be taken with many dialogue partners and key personnel along with the ASEAN member states as well. Now, I do want to shift gears back to Prof. Mark. Now, as Malaysia truly strengthens ties with the United States, as we have seen today, ASEAN continues to maintain a close economic relations with China as well. So this is, of course, been many discussion and debate along the US tariffs and the shocked developments affecting economic integration globally. So how can Malaysia and ASEAN manage this balancing act, deepening US cooperation without being seen as taking sides in the ongoing US and China and global rivalries?
Yeah, I think Malaysia as well as ASEAN will need to maintain their neutrality, which has always been the case, since the formation of respective countries, as well as ASEAN as a supranational union. So because of that, I think Malaysia and ASEAN will do well in looking at balancing their trades with the superpowers of the world. You see that Malaysia doesn't take sides, ASEAN also do not take sides. And then again, if you look at China and the US, you realize that the products that we trade could be very, very different. So because of that, we are still able to do business with both. We have a win-win relationship across all.
Okey, itu yang paling utama sebenarnya bila bercakap berkenaan dengan kehadiran Donald Trump, presiden yang berprofil tinggi, dan pastinya juga ia memberi satu isyarat yang sangat positif khususnya dalam kalangan pelabur-pelabur untuk datang ke ASEAN ini sebagai satu pusat pertumbuhan ekonomi yang besar dan mempunyai berpotensi. Jadi bagaimana untuk kita berikan gambaran ialah kalau sebelum ini kita melihat kepada penyataan-penyataan daripada pakar-pakar yang menyatakan bahawa kehadiran Donald Trump ini akan memberikan keimbangan kepada pengaruh kuasa China di rantau Laut China Selatan ini. Jadi bagaimana untuk kita berikan gambaran tersebut? Sebab kalau kita nyatakan perkataan keseimbangan itu, ia sangat berat sebenarnya dan sukar untuk dicapai. Adakah ianya boleh kita lakar ataupun kita capai dalam masa terdekat ini?
Ya, so yang pentingnya adalah presiden kedua-dua negara yang terbesar sudah datang ke sini. Itu yang paling penting.
The first step.
Correct. That is the first step, and that is perhaps one of the most important steps. We had President Xi coming in earlier of the year. Now we have President Trump coming here, and on both occasions, if you were to look at the narrative, it's very positive. Leaders were very, very complementary with one another. And from a diplomacy point of view, that itself is a big win.
Okey, kalau kita lihat di Kuala Lumpur pada hari ini, pada kali ini dalam sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 bukan saja menyebabkan satu pertemuan yang cukup ikonik kita katakan dalam kalangan negara-negara anggota, tapi juga dengan kehadiran pemimpin-pemimpin utama dunia seperti Perdana Menteri China dan juga kita menyaksikan ketibaan daripada Perdana Menteri Kanada, Perdana Menteri Brazil yang kita sedia maklum sama ini ada sedikit persengketaan perdagangan di antara mereka ini dengan Amerika Syarikat. Jadi bagaimana peranan Malaysia pada ketika ini untuk mengharmonikan hubungan di antara kesemua pihak ini untuk kita menjernihkan keadaan dan juga mungkin kita melihat kepada proses perdagangan yang lebih adil dan juga makmur selepas ini.
Ya, so sebagaimana yang kita sudah melihat pada hari ini, Presiden Trump dengan Presiden Brazil sudah berjumpa, right? So I think Malaysia as the host for ASEAN and in the second ASEAN Summit for 2025, you realize that the platform that Malaysia has provided is not just a platform for ASEAN member states to interact among themselves, but also for ASEAN member states to interact with the other countries, for example, like BRICS, as well as for the other countries who are observers of the ASEAN Summit to also interact among themselves. So because of that, I think the platform that Malaysia plays as the chair of ASEAN this year would be the standard, I would say, for ASEAN summits in years to come.
Truly a standard to beat, Prof. Mark, as well as you mentioned, because like we also have been mentioning throughout the entire program, this year's 47 ASEAN Summit is one of the largest in the history of ASEAN Summits, Munawar.
Ya, kita boleh katakan sebagai tahun ini tahun yang sangat bermakna, sangat bersejarah untuk Malaysia selaku pengurusi ASEAN dan juga untuk seluruh negara anggota ASEAN. Pastinya tema yang diangkat pada tahun ini keterangkuman dan kemampanan, dan seperti yang ditegaskan Perdana Menteri sebelum ini menyatakan bahawa dengan tema yang diangkat ini memastikan tiada siapa yang terkecuali ataupun terpinggir daripada segala impak dan juga manfaat yang dilakar melalui dasar-dasar yang telah disepakati. Jadi sekarang ini kita nak membawa penonton untuk kita menyaksikan satu pakej yang istimewa berkenaan dengan tema kepengurusian ASEAN Malaysia pada tahun ini, iaitu keterangkuman dan kemampanan.
Tahun 2025 menjadi detik penting buat ASEAN apabila Malaysia kembali memegang tanggungjawab sebagai pengerusi ASEAN. Tahun ini juga menandakan ulang tahun ke-10 penubuhan rasmi Komuniti ASEAN, simbol perpaduan serantau yang dibina atas dasar keamanan, kestabilan dan kemakmuran bersama. Sepanjang sedekad lalu, ASEAN telah mencapai pelbagai kejayaan besar dalam memperkukuh hubungan diplomatik dan integrasi ekonomi. Namun, dunia yang kian kompleks menuntut hala tuju baharu. Justru, ASEAN memperkenalkan wawasan Komuniti ASEAN 2045, satu pelan strategik untuk membentuk masa depan rantau ini yang lebih berdaya tahan, inovatif dan bersepadu. Di bawah kepengerusian Malaysia, tema keterangkuman dan kemampanan menjadi tunjang utama sidang kemuncak ASEAN 2025. Tema ini membawa makna bahawa kemajuan tidak harus dimiliki oleh segelintir, sebaliknya dikongsi oleh semua. Ia menegaskan kepercayaan bahawa setiap rakyat di rantau ini berhak menikmati hasil pembangunan secara adil dan mampan. Malaysia memberi tumpuan kepada 3 keutamaan utama. Pertama, memperkukuh keutamaan ASEAN dengan membina kepercayaan strategik antara negara melalui diplomasi dan kerjasama ekonomi. Kedua, mempertingkat perdagangan dan pelaburan intra-ASEAN sambil memanfaatkan kemajuan dalam sains, teknologi dan inovasi digital. Ketiga, menjadikan nilai keterangkuman dan kemampanan sebagai teras pembinaan Komuniti ASEAN, iaitu usaha memperkecil jurang pembangunan, meningkatkan taraf hidup rakyat dan menangani cabaran perubahan iklim. Keterangkuman dan kemampanan bukan sekadar tema, ia adalah komitmen bersama untuk memastikan ASEAN terus menjadi rantau yang aman, makmur dan berorientasikan masa depan.
Now, certainly, that was a little glimpse of the ASEAN's overall theme, as I would like to say, showcasing the inclusivity and sustainability impacts and the viewpoints of such as well. And talking about inclusive and sustainable viewpoints is, of course, what's been happening on the 47 ASEAN Summit surrounding the events at Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre since this morning. Actually, since few days past, we have been witnessing many meetings, bilateral meetings, related summits that have been held, and many has been, I would say, attention of many of our viewers at home. I think particularly would be the 13th ASEAN-US Summit, having the President of United States of America, Donald J. Trump, right here locally in Malaysia. Now, in this sense, of course, ASEAN and the US have adopted the ASEAN-US Joint Vision Statement, reinforcing a shared commitment to deepen cooperation and drive inclusive growth across both regions. Now, during the 13th ASEAN-US Summit remarks, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, the Honourable Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, said the joint statement marks a key step towards translating strategic ties into a joint statement, marks a key step towards translating strategic ties into concrete results that deliver real benefits to citizens and businesses. Now, grounded shared aspirations for peace and prosperity, ASEAN-US relations have evolved into a comprehensive strategic partnership in which the dynamic economies of the US and Southeast Asia have the potential to usher in a golden age, quoted by our Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, for our nations, in which the two-way trade between ASEAN and US hit a record of USD 453 billion last year, underscoring strong commercial links that support millions of job opportunities on both sides. Now, this is, of course, a good way to perceive that the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, and ASEAN leaders pledge to enhance cooperation in trade, technology, and regional security through this new joint statement. Now, of course, with this, I do want to ask Prof. Mark your perspective in whether the golden age of partnership that our Prime Minister has addressed, has it truly been achieved, or will it be achieved within the next, say, by 2030, 2045?
I think as we speak, progress is being made. I think when we look at trade, today is no longer the traditional trade of doing international business. I think we have a lot of priorities that have come on board, not just from the traditional aspects of access and inclusivity, but I think in a low carbon economy model where trade has to be fair, trade has to be clean, and if there is anything that is not clean or not, perhaps not so fair, it's time that we actually speak up and we protect ourselves against that. I think the ASEAN Summit provides a very good opportunity for that. A clear example is the power grid, where it is not envisioned to be powered by fossil fuel, but to be powered by renewable energy. So that's one. The others we see big topics are things like rare earth and precious minerals and so on. And the idea behind that is to do it in a manner that is safe for the planet, because we have the climate crisis that is going on. So any extraction of minerals and stuff like that will need to be in a very green and sustainable manner.
Okay.
And from a US perspective, they have those kind of technologies to do well for the environment and to produce in a manner that is clean. And from the American perspective is that they would want to see their intellectual property rights being safeguarded.
Yes.
Okey. Prof menyentuh berkenaan kemampanan, sustainability, dan pastinya saya nak ajukan soalan ini kepada Dr. Zokri yang masih lagi bersama kita secara dalam talian. Dan seperti yang kita sedia maklum, segala dasar yang telah pun direncana, yang telah pun dibincangkan oleh pemimpin-pemimpin negara kita, pastinya kita melihat kepada usaha untuk memperkasakan PMKS yang merupakan tunjang utama kepada ekonomi sesebuah negara. Dan kalau kita lihat dalam konteks ASEAN sendiri, sektor PMKS itu sendiri menyumbang hampir 45% kepada KDNK ASEAN. Jadi dalam kita melihat pelbagai hubungan diplomasi dan juga hubungan perdagangan, segala agenda yang telah pun dibincangkan bersama Amerika Syarikat, bersama Jepun, China, rakan dagang utama yang lainnya, bagaimana kita ingin mahu untuk meletakkan PMKS kita ke hadapan, untuk mereka turut serta dalam menerima segala limpahan manfaat dari segala perbincangan yang telah dibawakan. Antaranya adalah berkenaan dengan bagaimana standard dunia yang semakin mencabar pada ketika ini, dan juga kita melihat kepada aspek ESG ataupun suatu perniagaan yang lebih mesra dan juga hijau. Doktor.
Antara data yang kita ada dari aspek pertumbuhan ekonomi ASEAN secara rantau ini bukanlah sangat yang positif, kerana pada tahun 2023 pertumbuhan ekonomi mencatatkan pada 4.6, 2024 4.3, turun 0.3%, dan pada tahun ini dijangka sekadar 4.5%. Ada banyak faktor yang kita bincangkan, antaranya pengenalan tarif Amerika Syarikat kepada negara-negara dalam ASEAN ini sendiri. Jadi saya rasa sudah banyak literatur ataupun sudah banyak kajian dan pengetahuan yang telah diperkenalkan bahawa yang akan menggerakkan industri intra ataupun dalam ASEAN itu adalah PMKS ataupun industri kecil sederhana. Namun begitu, kita tidak begitu menyediakan ruang yang seluas-luasnya kepada PMKS ini untuk berintegrasi luar daripada teritori, luar daripada sempadan negara itu sendiri. Kerana dalam negara-negara ASEAN, kesenjangan ekonomi antara Singapura, Malaysia, Vietnam dan Indonesia dengan kumpulan ataupun kelompok yang seperti Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia dan juga yang terbaru ini Timor Leste ini masih belum dirapatkan kesenjangan yang ada. Dan ini sebenarnya memberikan satu cabaran bagaimana untuk kita merapatkan kesenjangan ini agar PMKS antara kedua-dua blok ini dapat dihubungkan. Itu yang saya rasa the imminent challenge ataupun cabaran yang terbaru yang harus kita perhatikan bersama. Juga apabila kita membincangkan tentang perubahan tenaga baru dan sebagainya, sebagainya, data menunjukkan bahawa pertumbuhan penggunaan tenaga dalam ASEAN dalam tempoh 2024 dan tempoh 2025 hanyalah bergerak sebanyak 3% sahaja. Maksudnya masih banyak lagi kawasan-kawasan dalam rantau ASEAN ini yang tidak mempunyai demand ataupun tidak boleh membekalkan supply kepada keperluan tenaga. Jadi saya rasa ini yang seharusnya we have to go on the ground, dan kita harus pergi kepada kajian lapangan bersama-sama dengan masyarakat di luar kawasan urbanisasi dan luar kawasan bandar untuk melihat bagaimana untuk kita memperkasakan ekonomi setempat, dan ekonomi setempat itu diterjemahkan kepada industri kecil sederhana, dan akhirnya bagaimana industri kecil sederhana tempatan sesebuah negara ini boleh diintegrasikan ekonominya dengan negara-negara ASEAN yang lain. So I think that is what we meant by inclusivity, where everyone is together to share the regional growth. Saya rasa, tapi mungkin sedikit perlahan, tapi saya rasa we are on the right track if kita ada tindakan susulan dan juga pengimplementasian yang berterusan dalam tahun-tahun yang mendatang.
Truly, I think when we talk about inclusivity as well, many of the times that we have highlighted here, there were also some other summits that were being held during the 47 ASEAN Summit and related summits that we didn't get to cover as much. And one of it I would like to highlight would be the 28th ASEAN-Japan Summit, in which ASEAN has expressed that they look forward to working closely with Japan under the leadership of the newly elected Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi to advance shared goals in innovation, clean energy and resilient growth. And during her visit, she actually mentioned that she's expected to meet many of our Malaysian leaders to explore ways to enhance collaboration in maritime security, economic resilience, green transition and humanitarian affairs under the ASEAN framework. Now, during Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim's opening remarks, he also welcomed the Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi to her first ASEAN-Japan Summit, as he looks forward to working closely in a shared vision of innovation, clean energy and resilient growth. Now, in that sense, ASEAN, in terms of Japan as well, we have seen there have been much success in architectural infrastructure framework within the ASEAN. I would like to ask Dr. Zokri, in that sense, how can other ASEAN member states see this collaboration effectively in terms of leveraging the strengths of Japan in that sense?
The strength of Japan as a country who is actually advanced in technology is actually on the power of innovating certain things. The power to actually understand the problems at hand, as well as the commitment to innovate solutions towards the problems that we have. So I think there are many aspects of innovations that we have learned. I think last year, while the then Minister of Economy, Rafizi Ramli, had actually organized an innovation week, something to actually make the nations innovative enough. But I think we actually haven't got what is the gist and what is actually innovation is all about. And I think we can look Japan as a model of innovative country and how to have the framework of innovations from the Japanese perspective into our perspective. And I think that is something good to be looked at, despite of the technology advancements, AIs and robotics, which Japan is very popular. But I think the arts of imagining solutions, the arts of innovating solutions is probably something that we can learn from Japan at the moment.
Okey, seperti yang kita boleh saksikan di visual, kita sedia maklum, ini juga merupakan satu sejarah sebenarnya. Perdana Menteri Wanita Jepun yang pertama dan hadir ke sidang kemuncak ASEAN ke-47 ini. Jadi kita cukup berbesar hati sebenarnya. Kita melihat kepada situasi ini sebagai suatu perkara yang boleh kita manfaatkan bersama dengan rakan-rakan dialog kita. Dan Prof, kita melihat kepada situasi semasa sekarang ini, ialah kita melihat kepada masa depan ASEAN. Kita mempunyai deklarasi Kuala Lumpur 2045. Jadi apa antara potensi besar yang boleh kita garap di dalam ASEAN ini ialah ada yang membandingkan ASEAN dengan Kesatuan Eropah. Namun apa yang berbezanya adalah ASEAN ini mempunyai kekuatannya tersendiri. Kekuatannya terletak kepada rakyatnya yang berjumlah hampir 700 juta penduduk dan juga terletak kepada kepelbagaian dari segi budayanya, dari segi warisannya yang menjadi identiti unik untuk ASEAN itu sendiri. Jadi apa antara perkara yang boleh kita lihat ke hadapan berlandaskan 3 tonggak utama ASEAN untuk kita terus mencapai impian yang lebih makmur dan juga sejahtera nanti?
Yeah, so I think at the center of what we are seeing today in ASEAN centrality is peace and stability. I think that's the first and foremost pillar. We have witnessed it from the peace deal that was being struck today between Cambodia and Thailand. I think that's an example of it. The next one is to ensure peaceful elections in Myanmar. I think that would be the next step. The other part of it is in terms of economy. And for economy, it has to be green. It has to leverage on the latest technology. So it's a digital economy that we're looking at. And of course, the protection of our social cultural heritage that we have. And, you know, within ASEAN itself, I think the mobility within ASEAN is improving, where, citizens of member states are able to travel freely among the states. That helps to preserve the culture, that helps to preserve the relationships between people, whether at a consumer level or at a business level. What we see in today's ASEAN summit, we see a lot of high-level stuff that is going on, but not to forget that there are a lot of related summits that are not just at a very high level, for example, between ASEAN and any of the key strategic countries, but also you will realize that, for example, the ASEAN Business Investment Summit that was happening yesterday and today brought together the business community leaders and even the political figures on the ground with the community to see what efforts could be done to improve the economy of each member state as well as ASEAN as a whole.
Interestingly, when you have mentioned, how we can leverage on each other within the ASEAN family, as I would like to call it, of course. And in that sense, I would also like to ask, when we're looking about a shared future for ASEAN, and of course, ASEAN's total trade and economic weight runs in the trillions of dollars around. So how should ASEAN actually translate the summit's theme that we speak about, inclusivity and sustainability, to be more future ready into a measurable policy outcome over the next, say, 12 to 24 months?
So the important part to ensure that to happen is the agenda of shared prosperity. Whatever that we do, we need to make sure that no one is left behind. And in order to ensure that no one is left behind, education is most important.
Betul.
Right? It's not just about getting the society, in ASEAN we have one of the largest proportion of youth around. It's not just about getting the youth to be educated, but also, for example, SMEs that 90% of them power the economy in ASEAN, in many ASEAN countries. They too needs to be upgraded and upskilled over time. And I think we need to look at ASEAN as a platform to enable, for example, the transfer of knowledge as well as the assurance of the quality of education and upskilling that we actually provide. So an example of that is that in Malaysia, we have Malaysian qualification agencies, but in ASEAN, we also have the ASEAN Quality Network, Quality Assurance Network, and that helps to maintain the quality of the education that we provide. Why that is important? Because without a country is only as strong as its economy, and economy is only as strong as its people, and its people can only be strong when they are well equipped with the right knowledge and skills in order to be competitive in the world. And I think that is the future of ASEAN. If there's anything in the next 12 to 24 months, it has to be shared prosperity at the forefront, supported by education and great policies to ensure that no one is left behind.
Ya, itu yang paling utama. Tiada siapa yang tertinggal daripada menerima manfaat, khususnya apa yang telah digarap dan juga dizahirkan melalui agenda-agenda utama di bawah Deklarasi Kuala Lumpur ASEAN 2045, masa depan yang dikongsi bersama. Okey, kita ajukan soalan terakhir dalam baki-baki masa yang ada ini kepada Dr. Zokri Idris. Doktor, kita melabuhkan tirai untuk hari ini, tarikh yang cukup penting 26 Oktober 2025. Tapi kita masih berbaki berapa hari saja lagi, 27 dan juga 28 Oktober. Jadi mungkin kita boleh berikan sedikit gambaran berkenaan apa yang bakal berlaku, apa yang utama, khususnya berkenaan dengan ACFTA, Zon Bebas Perdagangan ASEAN-China, dan juga mungkin kita boleh menyentuh berkenaan perkongsian ekonomi komprehensif serantau yang merupakan satu perjanjian perdagangan bebas yang terbesar di dunia. Doktor.
Saya merasakan dalam 2 hari yang mendatang ini beberapa penjajian ataupun perbincangan utama akan dilangsungkan. Dan ini adalah satu persetujuan antara negara-negara anggota ASEAN dan juga negara-negara anggota yang melibatkan perjanjian mega tersebut. Namun apa yang lebih saya pentingkan di sini adalah sambutan ataupun action plan selepas daripada persidangan ASEAN 47 dan selepas 2025 ini. Jadi saya mengharapkan setelah apa yang telah kita bincang dan mensyuarat dan muktamadkan pada tahun ini dengan pelancaran pelbagai inisiatif, pelbagai roadmap, blueprint dan sebagainya, pada tahun hadapan diharapkan akan ada the track 1.5 diplomasi, di mana ada gabungan daripada badan pemikir, institusi kerajaan dan institusi bukan kerajaan yang akan menelusuri setiap daripada action plan yang telah kita bincangkan pada tahun ini. Kita tidak mahu semuanya hanya tinggal di atas dokumen atau atas kertas semata-mata, tetapi harus disambut dengan tindakan susulan yang berkesan. Dan selepas track 1.5, kita harapkan akan ada track 2.0 di mana the non-public sector akan bersama-sama juga untuk menggerakkan agenda-agenda yang telah kita persetujui bersama. Barulah kita dapat melihat titik-titik perubahan daripada apa yang telah dipersetujui, apa yang dimeterai di atas kertas perjanjian dan apa yang dilaksanakan dalam tahun-tahun yang mendatang sehinggalah 2045. Jadi itu yang saya rasa yang perlu kita, we have to get that kind of mindset in order to things work.
Truly a fruitful and insightful session that we have been having here. The discussion as a recap of day 1 of 47th ASEAN Summit. A special thank you to our guests of honor. We have Professor Dr. Mark Lim Weng from Sunway Business School, Sunway University, and Dr. Zokri Idris, Managing Director, Global Asia Consulting, Sendirian Berhad. And now, of course, the 47th ASEAN Summit